Hey fellas, welcome back to another episode on our YouTube channel. My name is Rick, and behind me is our 2022 Type-S. Today we're going to take a look at the car and see some of the features and functions of the vehicle. But ultimately, I guess the question we want to know is, did Acura build a sufficient sports car this time around to compete against its competitors? What are its competitors, you ask? We're thinking of cars like the McLaren Arturo, we're thinking of the Ferrari SF90, we're thinking of the Lamborghini Huracan, and perhaps the Corvette C8. All of these cars are, I believe, cars that the buyers would cross-shop against the NSX. If you guys don't agree, or if you guys have other cars you think we missed, comment in the section later and let us know what other cars you think would compete against this 2022 Type-S. But let's follow along and take a look at the vehicle. All right, we're gonna go for a drive in the Type-S today. Right now, Plus mode, which is the mode I usually like to drive it in, because in Sport Plus mode, if you leave it in auto shifting, it's probably got the best rev matching and the best overall downshift of driving. I don't ever drive this car in Sport mode because the electric kicks in. So right now we're in park, we're put it in Sport Plus, hit the D button once. So this is in auto mode. We're not gonna shift, we'll let the car shift for itself. The transmission shifts pretty aggressively. It holds each gear a little bit better than if you were in sport mode. So this is, I think, what most people would drive the car in if you're in auto. And it actually feels pretty quick in this mode without having to, shift the paddles on your own. We'll try that later, but right now we'll keep it in the automatic mode and just kind of drive the car this way. So you can hear the motor. This is with the stock exhaust, but when I hit the brakes, you can hear it aggressively downshifting as you come through each corner, just like you would expect it to on a track or something. So right now we're in fourth gear. We're cruising at about 65 or so. Right now there's a lot of traffic here, so I don't want to go too fast. But in this mode, right now it'll hold fourth gear and it doesn't shift out of fourth until you let off the gas. So it's thinking that you want to drive aggressively. So if you let off the gas momentarily in fourth, it's not going to shift to fifth. It'll hold that fourth gear for as long as it thinks you want it to. And at any given moment, of course, I can downshift with the paddles. So I can hit the paddles to bring it back into fourth gear if I wanted to. One of the cool things about the Type-S programming is if you do want to drop a couple gears really quickly, you just hold that paddle for a second and it will drop into the lowest gear possible for you to have maximum acceleration, which is kind of a neat feature. In the old NSXs, you have to actually hit the paddles to downshift to each gear. So right now we're in sixth. We're just going to be cruising this speed for a few minutes until we get out of traffic, and then we'll give a little more gas. But you hear it braking, downshift 3, 2, and then 1. We've always been NSX specialists. We do a lot of NSX parts here for both the first generation and the second generation. A while back, we had the 2017 Novella Blue NSX. And then recently we picked up this 2022 NSX. I know you guys have read a lot of fun facts about these cars, what makes it great, why it's faster, why it's better. But sometimes when you drive the cars and you own them for a little bit, you see things that you don't see on articles. And that's what I'm gonna do today. I don't wanna talk about specs and horsepower and all those things because you guys can read about it, right? But I wanted to show you from an owner standpoint some of the differences on the Type-S compared to the standard NSX, because we know that the car first came out in 2017. 2019 they made some changes, but there was no horsepower increases. And then in 20 and 21 they introduced new colors. And then Acura announced in Monterey that in 2022 they were going to release the Type-S, limited to 350 cars. US, we got 300 cars. I believe Canada only got 15, and the other 30 went to Japan. So very, very limited numbers of these cars for the Type-S. Looking at the wheels, they're definitely different. These wheels split 5-spoke compared to what was offered before. This car has the lightweight package, so it's got the ceramic brakes. All the Type-S's have the nice logo here on the side, just in case you're not sure what you're driving. Blacked out door handles are factory. I like the treatment on the mirrors. The mirrors are kind of cool because it's got this black look with the body color coming through it. Pretty dramatic look on it. It's got the blinkers built in. The one thing this car still doesn't have is power folding mirrors, which, you know, it may not seem like a big deal, but if you're parking this thing in a tight garage or under a lift, sometimes having that power mirrors is really nice. The Lambos all have it. Ferraris do not, Acura does not, so that's kind of a bummer. But inside, the car has changed a little bit. The red seat belts are a nice touch. I mean, in the past, all the seat belts were pretty much black, so you can order aftermarket belts, but to have factory belts in red is super nice. I thought the embossed logos on the headrest were pretty cool. This car's got the two-tone interior. This is the factory carbon fiber package with the steering wheel. We're still waiting for the factory carbon door sills to arrive, so that's not in the car yet. Looking inside the car, I noticed one thing is this car has a full Alcantara headliner. I didn't notice that before. I don't think the previous generations had it. Correct me if I'm wrong. The visors are still this cheap pleather type material, which is not an issue because we're going to be offering full Alcantara headrest. Well, no, I'm sorry, not headrest, visors with the red stitching. That'll tie in nicely with the dash work with the red stitching you can see right here. The doors also have that treatment with the red stitching. These pieces we're going to swap out. So all the trims are still the same glossy kind of metal trim. We're going to be switching out all the metal trims for our carbon fiber door inserts, carbon fiber interior door trims, center trims, glove box. The glove box does have the nice Type-S embroidery on it, which is a nice touch. It's got the center piece, and it's got the factory matte carbon hood over the gauge cluster. But otherwise, the interior hasn't changed much. I mean, it's still got all the pieces that the previous generation has. All right, looking from the outside, this Type-S does have the lightweight package. The lightweight package from Acura includes the carbon ceramic brakes, front and rear, which we can see here. Inside the car, it's got the carbon fiber package inside, which does have the faceplate steering wheel all in carbon. We've upgraded the steering wheel, so this is not the steering wheel that you get, but the steering wheel is in carbon for the lightweight package. Also, you get the matte carbon hood, which I heard in some cars are not getting it anymore for some reason. Maybe it's a supply chain issue. A lot of them Acura are now doing in the matching Alcantara. So you can see in the middle of the Alcantara, they're doing that for the hood scoop over here now, which is a shame. This car's also got a bunch of carbon from our vehicle. So it's got the carbon door handles, carbon steering wheel upgrade, and we're getting the carbon paddles and the rest of the dash panels in here. It does come with a carbon roof, but this I don't think is part of the lightweight package, as all the Type-S's have the carbon roof now. The engine covers are part of the lightweight package though, so if you get the lightweight package, you get the nice shiny engine covers. All right, looking at the back side of the car, I think this for me is the most dramatic change. The rear diffuser, the rear bumper is radically different from the previous one. The previous one looked really nice and clean. This new one, I think, just screams aggressiveness. When I look at it, you know, I do think of Lamborghini, you know, the way the design is set up. This full carbon diffuser at the bottom with a black exhaust ring tip. Looks really nice and aggressive, definitely. Black badges, you know, all the Type-S's come with the black badges. Looking inside, the trunk is still the same. Believe it or not, it still has that funny resin smell, which is very strong. That was a problem with the 17 and 18, 19s. They all had this issue. Going into the engine bay, Acura did go with this red colored engine cover. We've had some customers ask us to paint theirs to, body color, so we've done a couple of them. But it's nice that this one comes factory in red. Of course, it's got the serial number, so this is number 46 of 350. The full carbon engine bay really pops, especially with that red cover. When you close up the trunk, it's clearly visible on the outside. Very dramatic statement. Definitely not going to tint the window on this car. Moving up to the front of the car, this is the other big dramatic change. Very noticeable is the bumper. This bumper is a complete new bumper. The old one, if you remember, had the nose beak. This one is all pretty much one piece. There is no more nose beak. The black Acura badges. Most of this is gloss black trim, but then the lower portions are carbon. You can see where it kind of sits. So the carbon lip on the bottom is gorgeous. I am a little bit concerned with how this is going to wear, because without any PPF on here, this is just going to be a very expensive piece to replace. Or if you were to hit something with this, I think this would be a very costly replacement. So one thing we want to check is, because the bumper is different, I don't think it's going to work, but Scrape Armor used to offer a 3-piece Scrape Armor kit that we used to sell for the NC1s. I'm pretty sure it's not going to fit this bumper, but we're going to test it anyway just to see if any of the pieces will fit, because having some protection underneath would be nice. Looking into the engine bay, one of the things we noticed right away is this piece is different. This upper area is sure, I believe, your factory horn, but this whole section right here looks different, which could be because of the nose beak. All right, so we have the piece finished up on the workbench. What we did was we just transferred the clips over. So all the clips have been transferred over, including the screw. And then the other 2 clips are down here, 1 and 2. So now with all the clips in place, all we gotta do is put this back in. To put it in is really easy. Line this up with the hole right here. So we're gonna put it in. And then once we get in the hole, slide it back like that. And that'll position all the clips in the right spot. So just kind of look, make sure you got all the clips in the right spot, line it up. When it's all in the right place, we're just gonna push and it'll snap it all back in, like that. There we go. How did that look? So now this piece is finished. That's it. Now we just got to repeat the process, do the other side, and we got the door pieces swapped on, and we're going to go in and start working on the other pieces. All right, let's go. So on the 2022 NSX, you select the drive modes using the dynamic mode button right here in the middle of the console. Up here in the cluster, you can see right now we're in sport mode, which is how the car, when you first start it up, it's in sport mode. In the sport mode, the electric kicks in sometimes, so right now the gas motor is turned off. So we can switch it over to Sport Plus. You can see the motor kick back in. So now we're in Sport Plus mode. If you hold the button in the left direction, then it'll switch over to track mode. There's the track mode. And then we'll come back to Sport Plus, and then Sport mode. You can see it goes back to the gas motor turned off, or I can drive it in full electric mode, which is quiet mode. So those are your dynamic modes on the NSX and selected from this thing. Usually I'll drive this car in Sport Plus in this particular mode. All right, so now that we saw how the 2nd gen NSX does the drive mode select, I figured it'll be fun to see what some of the competitors do. Since we happen to work on a lot of cars here, we do a lot of R8 2nd generation, Lamborghini Huracans, Ferraris. So I figure we pull these wheels off just to show you real quick on a bench. So on the 2nd gen R8, the drive select is done from the steering wheel. So if you're driving, it's just this button right here to select and toggle through the modes. Pretty simple. Lamborghini does it with this little red button here at the bottom. So they got 3 modes on the Lamborghinis: the Strada, the Sport, and the Corsa. The Strada is very similar to Acura's Sport mode. It downshifts very, very early, upshifts super early. It makes the car very docile, drives like an everyday car, right? So if you put in Strada mode, it's kind of like the Acura Sport mode. Sport mode here on the Lamborghini is equivalent to the NSX's Sport Plus mode. More aggressive downshifts, upshifts, holds the red line a little bit better. It's probably where most people drive, I'm guessing, the Huracan. Corsa is similar to the Type-S track mode. So we don't really use Corsa that much except on the track. But that gives you an idea of kind of how these two guys do it. And then we'll check out the Ferrari. All right, so we're sitting in the Ferrari. And, you know, for Italians, how do Italians do the drive modes? Well, it's pretty much done with the right thumb instead of, remember, the Audi was the left thumb, right? So over here, you got a switch. And I mean, the wet mode is pretty self-explanatory. You know, use that if you're in really wet or slick conditions. Sport mode is probably equivalent to Acura's sport mode in that it doesn't, it's pretty mild. The shifts are not very crazy. It doesn't hold the throttle all the way. Most of the people that drive in sport mode, they switch it over to race mode for driving around town and having fun with the car. That's probably most like Acura's Sport Plus mode. CT off, you know, this is primarily more for the track use. And then if you're really brave, you switch it to ESC off. That's all electronics off. That's kind of like Acura's track mode, plus turning off that button. If you remember my Acura, there's a little button here to turn off the traction control. So I wouldn't advise driving in ESC off because that's pretty risky, but usually race mode, sport mode. Are asking yourself, is the Type-S worth the extra money over the standard NC1 NSX, which is already an amazing car? I think only you can answer that question because it's about 100K premium for the Type-S over the standard car at the going market rate. And in that 300K realm, there's a lot of nice cars out there. But you have to remember, when this car first came out, I mean, this was a car that's in a very, very niche segment. I mean, there are not many hypercars out there, short of, you know, we know the P1, the 918, the LaFerrari, but those are all multi-million-dollar cars at this point. So when you look at cars that have hybrid technology that are both electric and gas, and in this car, twin turbos, you're not going to find many competitors out there, especially not in the under 500K category. So is this a good value? I think the Type-S is a great value. I mean, for those who got it at MSRP, that's probably the best deal you're ever going to get. It's going to be a steal. But for the rest of us, you know, who are paying over MSRP for the car, I still think, you know, it's a pretty good deal at about 300K because you're not having any other competitors in this price range. So, you know, go give it a shot. If you have a friend that has a Type-S, I would say go try it out. It's hard to get a test drive from dealers, as to be expected. I mean, I bought this car sight unseen, but I knew it was going to be a great car because I had the previous generation NC1, and so far this car hasn't really disappointed. All right, so we're at a stoplight here. I just want to say a few other things. I'm going to roll the window down because one of the things I noticed on the Type-S is when you do drive it on this Type-S, you do hear the wastegate quite a bit more. So when you're accelerating, you can actually hear the blow-up valve on this thing. You guys can hear that, but from the cockpit you can hear the whistling of the blow-up valve as you let off the gas between a gear. The steering does feel, let me close the window here. The steering feels a little bit tighter in this car. In Sport Plus mode, it just feels a little bit more responsive. It's hard to explain it, but I would say it's comparable to like if you're driving an S2000 CR. The rack just feels a little bit tighter compared to the standard S2000, and that's how the Type-S is on the steering. It's pretty responsive in this particular mode. I haven't switched to track mode, but since we're not on the track, I figured it's not going to be needed right now. The two things about the track mode is it does change the suspension settings, I think, for the track. And also, there's one other thing you can do on this car besides going to track mode is you can turn the traction control off, which is on the left here. We're not going to do that as well today because we're on the street right now. I'll switch it at the next light. We'll switch it to manual and let it shift and see how it does. But this is all in automatic shifting right now, which is actually how I like to drive this car. Like with the Huracan or the Ferrari, I like to shift on my own. But in this particular car, the car shifts so quickly that I just let it go by itself. So we're going to hit this button once here in the middle. That'll switch it to manual mode. So at this point, we're going to be shifting using the paddles only. So the car is not going to shift for us. So we'll see how this car reacts. So this is in full manual mode right now, Sport Plus. So we'll see how the shifts are, but it feels very, very quick. I mean, this is almost I would say as good as the 458 or the Huracan. I mean, each gear is so quick when you're shifting through the gears. So this first gear, I mean, there is virtually no lag. I mean, nothing that tells you that this car. Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you guys really enjoyed that video. We just want to give you guys a quick glimpse of the Type-S and what we thought of it in terms of how it drives and some of the updated changes. I think if you were looking at this whole video, there's two takeaways. What is the top thing we like about the new Type-S? I think take away all the electronics and upgrades. I think what we like the most about the car is the upgraded looks. The rear bumper and the front bumper is just amazing. I think when you look at this car, it just looks stunning. You know, you park it next to any exotic, it just pops, right? You're just not gonna see these cars anywhere with 300 cars being made in the US. What we don't like about it, I guess the only thing we didn't like was how much work we had to do to get this car. I mean, if you remember, we actually couldn't get that allocation, so it was not like we had a VIP allocation from Acura. We actually had to hunt for this car on the used market and ended up picking one up from secondhand. So I think that was the only negative aspect about the Type-S. So otherwise, that car is just amazing. I can't find any faults with it. It does everything well, and I'm looking forward to many more videos with this car. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye.